getting back to my team and the culture, I hope they know how much I appreciate them. And no, they have families, they have kids at home, they're sacrificing their personal time. We're not doing it for practice, we're doing it to make a living. There are other people that I see have caught the vision, right, of where we can see what this company is becoming and what can be in the next 5 years. They want to be a part of it. There are people here that are making choices every day for the benefit, not necessarily for their career or praise or to be the boss's favorite, but to help the company, Killowen's brand, be something they can be proud of.
Welcome to episode 110 of the AFT Construction Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Levitt. And in this episode, I speak with Tyler Farrell, who is owner of Killowen Construction. And for those that have been watching Dream Home Makeover on Netflix, Tyler's on Netflix. He works with Shea and Syd McGee from Studio McGee. And what's amazing about this podcast, Tyler's actually a good friend of mine. We were in college together, fellow alumni, and we were able to dive down how he built his business. You know, the value he puts on his employees, how emotional that is to him, and how that generates to the success of the company. And we also spoke about how did he get his start? How did that turn into what he's doing now with Netflix? Where did that opportunity come from? And how important it is for us to not only envision our dream, but how do we chase it? How do we create those steps to get there? And he shared some valuable information, very personal, about the show, about his relationship with Studio McGee, and about his rise to the success he's having now. So without further ado, let's get started. So welcome to the AT Construction Podcast. And today we have Tyler Farrell with us from Killowen. So welcome, Tyler.
Thanks. Glad to be here. I feel unworthy, but here I am.
Oh, you're more than worthy. So just a little background. Tyler and I were in college together, fellow alumni, and now, you know, we've been friends for many years, and it's been awesome to see your journey as you've, started your company, and now you're my claim to fame, Netflix star. So that's pretty awesome. So,
yeah, I guess.
And I know that TV makes things look so perfect, right? I mean, that's what they do. Yeah. I mean, TV makes it seem like you have no issues, Tyler, and I'm just sitting here scratching my head wondering, how is that possible, considering I'm dealing with like more stress I've ever had in this industry in my entire career? So I guess with that said, I know the reality of this. I mean, what are some challenges that you're dealing with right now?
I'm glad you said that, because from sitting on this side, I think you have it all together.
I don't think any of us do.
I work with some fantastic companies, architects, designers, collaborations with other builders. I really don't think any of us have it together. I think it's how we tackle those challenges, right? So it's kind of like with our parents, right? I thought when my parents were 40, they knew what they were doing, but I'm just doing the best I can. And I would say the biggest challenge I have right now, I mean, I don't think it's just our industry, right? The whole end of the world last year, and just the pandemic problems, the supply chain, the labor shortage, all that stuff. I was just thinking today, because I knew I was going to be on here, and I had a feeling this might be a question. The biggest challenge I have right now sounds totally bratty, but it's like, what opportunities do I want to take advantage of? Because right now, we're so fortunate in construction. Even the bad builders are busy. But I think I have a lot of employees now, and I feel a burden to pick the best path for them, because I have so many great paths ahead of us. But
so what do you mean by that? I guess, first off, I think it's important to talk about, I mean, how big is your firm now, Tyler?
We have about 25 employees.
That's impressive. I mean, you're almost twice the size of me. I mean, we're at 15.
Well, I mean, we do some stuff in house, so that's not just 25 managers. Yeah. It started out just with me. I don't know if you want any background on where I came from, but it was just me. I think it's good context. I think I never wanted employees because I was really nervous, I think, and afraid to have that burden of being responsible for more than just my family, right, and the payroll associated with that, and not ever wanting to let someone go. It's way easier to hire someone than to let someone go. Then all these opportunities started coming, and I wanted to take advantage of them. And I got to thinking if I think I run a good company and I think I'm fair with my people. And I got thinking if I had to let them go and they're in construction, they probably would have had to be let go by someone before that, by someone else. So I decided to quit being afraid and just kind of roll with opportunities we have. So now I started with just a couple managers. Now we have about 10 to 12 managers, project managers, junior project managers, superintendents. But we also self-perform some work. We do a lot of carpentry. We have our own cabinet shop. So some of it's more labor heavy than just management. But yeah, we're primarily the custom home market here in Park City, Utah. And we, I think with our cabinet business, we don't sub out. We only do our own homes. I don't think I'd be a very good subcontractor. I'm a little too bossy. But the idea with that was just bring more of a custom feel to our homes. I mean, to be honest, we work with a lot of wonderful, talented designers who were requesting very custom cabinet packages. I just felt like we were letting them down with kind of the sub base we were using at the time. I felt like our cabinets weren't matching our level of home we were producing, and we were like, you know what, we'll just do it ourselves. I don't think I was naive enough to think that cabinets, it was just going to be that easy to start a cabinet company. It's one of the more difficult trades, I think, to get right. But
so, and I want to ask on that because it's interesting. I had Nick with NS Builders on a while ago, and he's very similar in the sense that he has his GC business, right, his management business, and then he also has his cabinet and trim side like you do. And I've always struggled just trying to get my arms around that. Not that you are doing anything wrong or Nick is, just internally. Sure. I look at the complication of running a project and now trying to add to that where I have my own, hourly guys or salary guys that I'm paying. And then for you, where you're only using them in-house, I mean, how are you able to organize that pipeline? Because for me, it comes in waves, right? I mean, we have 10 to 13 projects a year. Typically, they come in waves, and to try to keep an even flow is like nearly impossible. So how do you keep that pipeline pretty consistent for them to be busy, not too busy?
So, I mean, it's a really good question. We've yet to have the not too busy phase. We've never lacked for work in the cabinet shop. Yeah, that's a great problem to have, and I totally understand that. My kind of the way I deal that with my clients, because if you were building with Killowen and you heard, in my pitch that we do our own cabinets, you'd probably be like, well, where's the cost control in that? So that's like, it's a blank check for the cabinets because you're the cabinet guy too. So to kind of help with that transparency and just our scheduling, we have sister cabinet companies, just partner cabinet companies that will bid out every home with our numbers. And if we were, say, going to use another cabinet company and use that for the budget, just one, to keep us, not keep us honest, but just show that we're a fair rate for what we're providing. And then two, give us more options with the schedule. Because I would never have one of our homes be held hostage because my cabinet company is too busy. And I'm very clear at the very start in our first preliminary meetings, unless it's an absolute, you hired us because you want our Killowen Cabinet Co., you might not get us strictly for your own benefit to help your schedule. Now, our shop is a little more custom. We're not a slam them up, slam them out, just production cabinet company. So there's oftentimes we'll do like the kitchen, right? Or a more detailed inset part of the home. We'll maybe sub out some of the secondary cabinets, some of the secondary bedrooms. So it was more so to help with our schedule and quality control. I think if we got to that not busy enough stage, we could always do kitchens, we could always do built-ins. We get a ton of requests, thankfully, and we're thankful for them, that we just say no to every week because we just don't do the one-off cabinet jobs because we're just too busy with our own homes, and we're fortunate there. But
which is good.
it's construction.
But let me ask, yeah, let me ask you this though. I mean, in the reality of, I understand the pitch to the client where you set the tone, to control the costs, and really, it's good that you do that because what's really important for us as the contractor. I mean, think of the construction industry; it's based on trust, right? And where we have the biggest breakdowns is where the clients feel there's a lack of trust with their contractor, but even more so, I mean, we're really the ally. We're really the defender of our client. Like we have to be there as an owner's rep per se, as a general contractor to manage and mitigate all the issues that may come up. That's why they hire us, right? But the challenge now that you're encountering, and I imagine this on the other side, to get bids from other cabinet companies, you have to award them, right? I mean, they're not just going to bid, especially knowing, hey, Tyler has his own cabinet shop. I'm bidding against him. He's the controller. He's the general contractor. How do you build that trust factor now with your subcontractor base, your trade partners, that they know, hey, even though I'm bidding this, I may get, I may not, but there's still a relationship with Tyler and his team?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. I mean, I'm having that a lot with a lot of our sub base because I bid out every trade 3 or 4 deep, right? Not just for cost comparisons to keep everything on, even playing field with cost, but for scheduling too. Like for how some of these projects go, and depending on the winter, depending on the dig, maybe we run into some rock and our schedule's thrown off, right? Or maybe one's going quicker. So even with, say, our heating guys, be like, you guys, I love you guys. You're my favorite heating guy, but I'm not going to award you every project. We're at the point where I can't have just one or even 2 subs for each trade. So they have to go with our track record of Tyler's not going to jerk us around. I'm asking them every time I send it out a bid. I send it out to 150 people. I tell them you might not get this job because you're not going to get them all, but I need you to build them all, bid them all, so we have options. You might get 3 out of the 5, but I'm not going to give you 5 out of 5. It's not fair to either of us because I think there was a point where I was a little too loyal to my main guys, and I'd give them everything. And then I'd get mad because they're not on my job. And I'd call them and they'd be like, well, I'm on your other job. Where do you want me to go? Which one? I'm like, well, I want you to be at both. So that was kind of my fault because I was giving them too much, right? I felt like they probably weren't going to tell me no because they want all of our work. I think I just awarded them too much. And that's a very valid and fair question with the cabinet side. And as far as us being a competitor to our other cabinet subs, I think our name's gotten around enough. They see how many jobs we have. They know it would be crazy for us to try to do all of them. And I've awarded enough to them being like, hey, listen, I don't really jerk them around with the price. If it's competitive and close to ours, we're pretty good just signing them on and awarding them pretty early because our cabinet drawings are so critical to the process. We got to award them pretty early anyway. So the challenge, I think, is obviously projecting out for the following year, but we get cabinet requests, like I said, for kitchens and whatever. And I mean, honestly, I do think we're at least a couple of years out for cabinet jobs. So that's a great problem for us to have. But I mean, it also speaks to the quality of my guys. So I love carpentry. I absolutely love it. It's another reason I started it. I think I'm a carpentry snob, even though I'm not near as talented as our workers, right? So I built really terrible furniture in my backyard when we were at BYU together, out of 2x4s, and I just thought my stuff was amazing. But I can appreciate their quality. I can't do the kind of work they have or they do, but I'm really proud. I think I mentioned earlier, one reason I started the cabinet shop is I felt our cabinets we were putting in weren't matching the quality of our homes. And I say that because a client told me that. We kind of do an exit interview, like where did we do well? Where could we have done better? And he mentions like, I love our house, but like, the cabinets I just think it doesn't match up with the rest of what you've done. And that hit me, really hard. That like, obviously I want all of our house, every trade to stand out. And that's where we started to do some of it ourselves.
I want to touch on this because now you've kind of brought open this topic, this exit interview, and you have my attention. Not that you didn't have before, but how is that handled when you talk about an exit interview? Walk me through that process, how you communicate with that client, how it's set up, what's communicated, how long is it? Like, how does this take place?
So we're getting it a little more formalized now. That's another challenge of growth and scaling a company, right? We're bigger than I ever thought we would be. I feel like I've been the owner of kind of three separate companies in my career, although they're all named Killowen. So the first one was just me doing the best I could. And then as we've grown, grabbing a couple managers, but now we have a lot of people and I rely on them so much, and I've had to let go of a lot of my control to a point. It's hard when you have done everything to let go of some of that, because this company, it is my baby, and it's very important to me. It's the second, second to only my family, the most important thing in my life. So giving up some of that control to people has been hard. So get back to your question. As far as up until this point, most of the exit interviews have been me sitting down with the clients in their new home and asking them, just having a conversation with me with a notepad, being like, hey, where did we do well? Where could we have done better? And some of that can't really be put on a form, as far as like checking off how well we did. For example, one of my great project managers I have, Levi, he was our tile guy. He was our main tile guy. And I would have this conversation with our homeowners when we finished the house. Hey, what subs did you like? Where did we do well? And they're like, well, Levi was so great. We just loved talking to him. He always explained things. He explained things that weren't even about tile. And that was just like, I think one of them jokingly was like, why don't you hire Levi like to just be a manager? And I was like, that's a really great idea. And Levi's been with us for years, and I love that he has that field experience. But basically that came from an owner interview where everyone was just singing his praises, right? They're like, yeah, I was kind of mad at you one day and he defended you and explained the situation. I was like, that's my boy. That's Levi. And he's great. So that came from an exit interview. Now we are exploring some options, because now we have more employees. I want to incentivize, right? So I think bonus structure, I even had a call with you about this about a month ago or a couple months ago, about what's the best way to reward good work, right? And it's pretty hard to quantify in construction, because scheduling is an issue where they can do the best job managing and calling everyone, and then just like the painter doesn't show up. So that's not necessarily their fault. So it's hard to gauge. So we're thinking on the exit interview, having a small amount of it be based upon the homeowner's answers and responses of how happy they were with the management, be based on on the exit interview answers. But that's in process right now. So right now it's not incredibly formal.
So when you mean it's incredibly formal, maybe with the employees, I mean, you're working on that, but maybe with the homeowners, it's not incredibly formal. But the point of this is you are sitting down or having a conversation. I mean, is this in your office? Is this at their house? Is this over the phone? I mean, how are you dictating out the client just to get that feedback, the autopsy of the project?
So lots of times it's at their home. So we'll sit down in their kitchen in their new home, whether we're talking about punch list items. There's typically a meeting after they move in. I'm bringing my housewarming gift, and we talk about the project. Maybe it's a longer meeting where we're doing some closeout conversations about some additions, settling up, some things like that. There's also, estate management that we talk about. We give them a closeout package with all their specs for their home, for all their appliances, their furnaces, all that stuff. So that can be a pretty expensive and long conversation. But typically, with these homes, they get super personal, super awesome in a way, because it's the most expensive thing they'll ever buy. It's where they raise their family, their kids, their grandkids. And it gets pretty personal. That's why I like it better than commercial. I was in commercial for a while, but homes there's something about it it's pretty cheesy, but like when you go back to a project and it's now a house, it's now a home instead of a job site, it's really special. So I like to have those meetings in their home and talk to them about it. I do try to be, even though we are, I don't know, let's call us a medium-sized company now, I do like to still be very involved in not just day-to-day stuff, but don't disappear after I sign the contract with them. Even though they get a project manager and superintendent, I like to be heavily involved. And part of that's just because I like to know what's going on, and I can't have our name on something I'm not aware of, right? So
how often are you checking in, like during the project? Because I know at some point the reality is, even with your size and the complexity and everything else we'll get into just from your other endeavors, but are you checking in once a month, once a quarter? I mean, how often typically do you call or text your clients?
I insist on being copied on all correspondence. So it's a little too much, to be honest. So I like to be on every text chain and every email. I might not chime in on everything, but I like to know what's going on. And I don't think that's sustainable. Well, it depends on how much more we scale. Right now it is sustainable. I like to know what's going on. I have a bird's eye view of everything. I'm not necessarily the guy that's ordering the dumpster to get dumps, but if there's a change, I'm aware of it, especially if it has cost implications. But no, I'm involved with every single job.
That's interesting. And I do like the feedback. I mean, I think about the exit interview. I look back when I first started AFT, this is early on. This is when I was still in the field, right? At the time, and I was the superintendent running projects very early on. I had a client and we were doing a remodel at the time. And I remember the client pulled me aside and he was awesome. I mean, he was a commercial contractor, super fair, a great client to work for. Him and his wife are just sweethearts. And I remember he said, "Hey, Brad, can we grab some lunch?" Right. And we went and had lunch and without knowing in his exit interview, that's what it was, right? He wanted to sit down with me and he said, "Hey, Brad, I really loved, you did A, B, C, D, E, right? That I really loved the communication and personality and, the quality and these things were great." He said, "But here's a couple things you should look at, like cleanliness, site cleanliness. They set up in my driveway. I had paint spilled in my driveway. It's kind of messy sometimes." And it wasn't like super detrimental. It wasn't horrible. And he's like, "Hey, Brad, overall the experience was awesome, but moving forward, you should make these changes." And it was so valuable because it was at a point where emotionally he wasn't as connected to the project, so he could give some honest feedback without it escalating or making me feel like I was letting him down. But what's interesting since that point is where I say, we need to make site cleanliness a focus of the company. And just based on his focus, and we've done that, and we've strived for that. And it's amazing how much of an impact that's made to our community and our clients. And so that feedback is so important. I don't think we do that. We're so much of a rush to get the client in, they move in, and then we just move on to the next battle.
Well, and I love that you say that, and I'm not surprised you probably took that criticism as construction criticism, right?
Right. So, absolutely. Yeah.
We do something that I think is pretty cool and has helped me. We don't often lose out on projects we want, but it happens occasionally. Occasionally they'll choose someone else, and I'm as competitive as the next guy, and I sometimes can hold a grudge and be like, they're on my list, I'm just going to show them how good a builder I am. Not in a mean way. I'm not going to put like roadkill in their driveway or anything, but I think about it. I'm like, gosh, they didn't pick me. I'm going to tell them I told them.
Rue the day,
whatever.
Right? Yeah. Now, we're super excited to welcome one of our new sponsors to the podcast, Pella Windows. And this is even more exciting because we use Pella in so many of our projects, nearly all of them. And they've been just an incredible partner of ours. And locally, Sammy and Adam, they are not only amazing business partners behind us, but they are super close friends. And I speak on the podcast all the time about the importance of relationships, right? Relationships with our customers, with our vendors, with our suppliers, because at the end of the day, I'm only as good as those that help our brand and assist us in our projects to take it from the ground up all the way to completion. And if we didn't have partners such as Pella, there's no way we'd be who we are today. Over the years, we've built this amazing relationship. When we call them or email them, they respond. They're quick. Their company culture, their integrity, their honesty. They are always there to do what's right for us and the customer. They can do anything from small replacement projects to large custom homes and even multi-million-dollar commercial projects. And also, when you think about their product line, they can do ultra contemporary, historical preservation, and large traditional projects. So for anyone, any scale, any size, they're the ones to call. They're here local. They have an amazing Instagram. Make sure and give them a follow to see what they're doing. So if you need windows and doors, give Sammy and Adam a call. We stand behind Pella. We love what they do, their culture, their brand, and especially their quality. And if you want to learn more about Pella Windows, check our show notes. We'll have everything tagged there so you can give them a follow and have their contact information to reach out. And now let's get back into the episode.
One thing we started is 6 months, even a year after, I keep a list of those people that chose to not go with us, and we actually sent them a questionnaire asking why. And we're not looking for their work. Their house is probably almost done. And I wanted to do that to see where we can improve, because I do think we do a good job, and my feelings get hurt too. If it's just because they don't like me, okay, that's fine. But if it was a price thing, I want to know how their job went. Did the pricing go like the other guy told them it was going to go? Was it a presentation problem? What could we have done better to get their business? And there's more people than I thought have responded and been like, you know what? I think we should have gone with you. Here's why we didn't. And it's been really positive. And I think you get to the point where you have to swallow your ego a little bit. This is another good one. Like, we had someone leave us, an employee. Really liked him. He's a junior guy, really great kid. I wish him the best, but he took a job elsewhere for a lot more money, and it was a completely different position, right? Not even necessarily construction management, but we do a formal exit interview. This one is formal. They write it down. I get to see it, and they sign it. And some of the stuff on there that he mentioned was legit. It's like, you know what? I can do better at that. You're right. Some of the stuff I disagreed with. But a lot of it was like, you know what? I need to look in the mirror and be like, how can I make this a better spot for my company? My only, with this situation, we haven't had many people leave us, but with this one, I kind of wish he would have brought it up. Any issues he had. Before he decided to leave. I really think one thing I'm striving for with our business is I want, because I mentioned, I feel like I've owned 3 different companies. I never worked for someone like me, right? That's one thing I would maybe give some advice to young guys who want to be me, is maybe work for someone like me. So you could learn from maybe not necessarily my mistakes, or just learn from my processes and whatnot, because I kind of started from scratch. Because
well, but the reality is, Tyler, if I talk to you about this, is that, yeah, you had to start from somewhere, and it kind of goes back to a conversation where, people think, well, why can't I be my own GC, right? Why can't I run my own house? And you realize that, hey, you as a builder, Tyler, you've built your first house, your second house is better, your third's better, and so on down the line, and now you're 100 deep, and it's like the home you're building today is 100 times better than the first one in the whole process, because you've mastered that craft, or at least working to master that craft, and it's very similar. So yeah, when you mentioned that it's not that you're making mistakes, it's just you're learning as you go, and being able to set that culture and that company standard for your employees and yourself, right? That's where they're going to grow as well.
And I want my people to challenge our system. I might disagree and I might push back, but I do want our team to think of ways we can do better. And you know what? Maybe I had thought of that before and it didn't work, and this was why. But I'm not adverse to change. We just hired another gentleman, and one of the reasons he left, which I think is a very good company, said they were really resistant to any type of change. And I just don't think you can be successful that way. Again, I said this is competitive, and probably, I don't know, I have pride in our company, but man, the day we stop improving, or even just listening to better, better ideas, is we're going to be on the downhill.
So how do you know? You mentioned this earlier, and I actually made note of it. I mean, you talked about with the company, you have 25 employees, and you said you're fair, right? You don't have a ton of turnover, and you mentioned the comment fair. So how I shouldn't say how do you even gauge that, but the reality is, how do you create a good company culture with managers, superintendents? You know, you have the office, you have self-performing. I mean, it's a lot of complexity, and so how have you found success to create a good company culture for your team?
Um, I'd like to take all the credit, and just say I'm awesome at managing and whatnot, but I've been really, some of it's luck, Brad, really. I'm so fortunate. I'm tearing up a bit.
I love it.
My the people I've
Hey,
hired.
you're making me want to come work for you. I mean, anyone that sees this, where you're this passionate, and I love that. Just to give you a second here, but the reality is, Tyler, I mean, you know, an owner that feels the weight. Like I wrote down entrepreneur, right? Because most people think they want to be an entrepreneur, but the minute you hire somebody, they don't realize the complexity. Because now you have this responsibility, and you mentioned this early on in the episode that, hey, I feel the responsibility for my entire team. I mean, I have people, they have families, they have careers, they have goals, aspirations, and to create a lifeline, a pipeline for them to be successful, to be challenged, to support their family, to live, to put food on the table, right? I mean, that's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight as an owner. And that's why I can relate to your emotions right now. And I think as an entrepreneur, there's up and downs that change every 5 minutes, and it's really difficult. But to your point, Tyler, I mean, as you know, you just think about the burden with that and the emotion behind it, where I can relate to that emotion. I mean, as an entrepreneur, right? It's going up and down every day. It changes every 5 minutes throughout the day. And there's a lot of weight, right, that you feel for that. And just being sensitive to that and understanding that, I think, in my opinion, you know, I've worked for different companies and different bosses, and the ones that I don't want to say are emotional, but you can sense that they care, like it goes a long way, right? Because if people feel appreciated, that's one of the biggest ways that they want to do a good job for their employer, for the company, for the brand.
Yeah, I mean, and I apologize for being emotional. It's probably the first time someone's cried on your podcast.
It's not.
The
It's not. So don't worry.
Okay, good. So I get emotional because I know how hard, not just my employees, but our subcontractors, how hard we work, man. Work so hard, and the guys, I have so much gratitude for how hard they work, and honestly, for lack of appreciation a lot of the time, just in construction.
Lack
in
of
general,
appreciation. I mean, what I tell people, the last person I hired, the expectation I set, and I said, look, it looks amazing on Instagram. You're going to see these amazing projects and pictures, but the reality is, it's a grind day to day. You're dealing with clients that are frustrated. You're dealing with a lot of professionals, you know, from architecture and design. You're dealing with supply chain. You're dealing with subcontractors. I mean, trade partners, and there's issues. All you're dealing with is putting out fires and dealing with crisis and problem solving 24/7. And you're never going to get phone calls saying, "Thank you, Tyler. You're doing an awesome job." All the photos are, why is this behind schedule, Tyler? Why isn't this installed? Why is this I mean, it's really tough. And it's not that we have bad clients. It's not that we have a bad team. It's just, it's a really difficult industry that's all labor intensive. There's no shortcuts. There's no easy way around it. And there's just issues every day that we're encountering.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for saying that. 'Cause sometimes you feel like it's just you, right? But as far as like getting back to my team and the culture, I hope they know how much I appreciate them. I hope they know um, that they're seen and that they're working, because I know they have families. They have kids at home. Most of our team have young families, right? Or even if they didn't, they're sacrificing their personal time a lot of the time. And I there's people in our company that are here for the paycheck, and that is fine. That's why we do it. We're not doing it for practice. We're doing it to make a living. It's all good. There are other people that I see have caught the vision, right, of where we can be. And those are the people that, like, the majority of who we have, I can see what this company is becoming and what can be in the next 5 years. They want to be a part of it, right? we're not where we want to be. There's processes. We're dealing with growing pains, but there are people here that are making choices every day for the benefit, not necessarily of for their career or praise or to be the boss's favorite, but to help the company, Killowen's brand, be something they can be proud of. And those are the company people that I'll remember. I'm not going to do this forever. And I didn't want this to be Tyler Farrell Construction. Killowen Construction, it's kind of hard to say and spell, but I want it to be a group, right? I want it to be a team, and not just me. And I'd love it if this company was around long enough for my kids to inherit and ruin. But if I could hand this over to some of these awesome people that work with me right now, I don't think I'd ever want to leave the company, but give them more ownership, more responsibility. That's my goal, really, for them to inherit what I have.
Well, one thing I think is important. I mean, after this episode, hopefully you send this to your whole team that they listen to it and hear the way you speak about them and the company and the passion. There's no way that this can't build company culture if your employees, all 25 of them, listen to what you're saying here right now. It just shows what we can all do as business owners, right? So you mentioned the trajectory you're on, which I've seen, and I know we've spoken a lot offline about this. When did you see that happening? I mean, did it happen in correspondence with your relationship with Shea at Studio McGee? I know you do a lot of Shea's work, and so when did you really see this really take off? And how did you even meet Shea? Like, how did that relationship start, between you and Studio McGee?
So to answer your question, yeah, I think it really corresponds. I think it'd be silly to not just admit that I've been riding her coattails for quite a while.
I don't mean that by any means. Because Tyler, you're incredibly talented.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to say we don't work with other talented designers too. We love working with Stu McGee. We really do. But there's another handful, of designers we work with, like House of Jade, Kevin Creer, Kim Parker, like Midway Design.
You have some incredibly talented designers there in Utah.
But it was a little bit of a game plan, right? It was about 2018, so not even, maybe 3.5 years ago. I haven't been the best networker, Brad, and you've inspired me to get on social more. I'm really limping in your smoke, I guess. But
not really. I see how fast you're growing because you start posting these pictures and people don't realize the scale of work you're doing. And every time you post them, that's why I told you just need to post more.
I know. So anyhow, I think in 2018, I wish I would have realized this 5 years sooner. But my networking with designers and architects is huge. I love referring and getting referred by talented professionals, right? So I had never worked with a professional interior designer before Stu McGee. And I'd worked with some designers, and you know what? Bless them, they were amateurs. I don't think it's hard to find someone with good taste. I think it's hard to find someone that's super professional, organized, an asset to the team and the schedule. We love working with designers. We insist on it. We require it. But not all of them are created equal, just like builders aren't, just like architects aren't, just how doctors aren't, right? So how I met Shea was she's pretty famous on Instagram. She posted a house we had built in Midway that she just walked by. And she's like, this is a cute house. We like this house. And it went all over, and it's a really pretty farmhouse. It was all over Pinterest, all over this stuff. And I messaged her and I was like, thank you so much. That's so kind. I really like your work. I'd love to work with you. And that's how we started talking. And I started referring them projects, and they just never worked out. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to hire her. So I did a spec home in 2018, and I hired them to be the designers. And my plan was they were going to see how awesome we were to work with, even though I was paying their bills. And then they were going to refer us to their clients because they're going to see that Killowen does it right. We work hard, we do it right. And it worked, and I got them. And when we were building that house, Shea and Syd came to me and was like, "Hey, would you be interested in building our own personal home?" And I was blown away and flattered, and that's awesome. That's huge for us. Just regardless of my personal relationship with Syd and Shea, which is great. I think they're great people. I will say this about Syd and Shea: when you build someone's house, this. You get to know that person, right? The walls come down, right? So probably a little more than you should know when you get done building someone's house. And that can mean just like with people in general, it can leave you a little disheartened. It can also make you love those people even more, because you can see that they're thankful and that they do care and that they're good to work with. I thought Shea was going to be a little bit of a diva. I did. I thought she was. And you know what? She was absolutely fantastic. Her and Syd to work for. And we're still doing stuff, so that's a good sign. We've been working together for several years. But anyhow, that's how I met them. So I hired them. And I don't work with just, Syd and Shea day to day. They have an awesome team full of very talented individuals, and they're so great. They're so great. If for some reason Stu McGee ever closed up shop, I would want all of their employees to come work for us. But we've built some really good relationships, and I think they appreciate how hard my team works and how much they care. Because they've probably seen it the other way, and it's not just our industry, but there's some jokers out there, some contractors that I just don't think care as much as my team, and that's a big part of it. Just caring. It's hard to train work ethic and effort, right? We can train the other things.
Yeah, you can. But I love that you shared that. I mean, one thing, Tyler, just to pick up on, I mean, when I asked you how that relationship began, a lot of people I network with and speak with, they always say, well, how do you get started? How do you get the attention, right? And there's a few ways to do that. One is I can tell you right now that if you're going to cold call people, like, it's not effective, right? It's extremely rare that it is effective. And someone's be like, oh, Tyler's calling me. Yeah, let's give him a project. Doesn't happen, right? But if there's other ways to do it. One is from social media. You can get on, you can engage, months and months of engagement and liking and commenting. You start building a rapport where the people end up seeing it, like, hey, who's this Tyler Farrell that continues to support me? That's one way to do it, LinkedIn or Instagram. But as you said, by bringing value, saying, hey, I got a project. Syd and McGee, I want to hire you. Come on. Now, instead of just enlisting them, even though you want to work with them, you're actually bringing something to the table. You're bringing value to them. And now that invitation's there, they can take that, and then you can build off that. Now you have the opportunity. You've given yourself the opportunity. Now you just have to perform and then let it take its course. Right.
And, they've been great to work with. They've been patient through this weird time. Like, I was just finishing their basement in their pool house, the McGees, during the worst time in history you could have finished a basement, right? Just because of COVID and the labor and the lumber and materials and all that stuff. And they've been patient with me through some of those things and some of my growth as we've kind of caught up to them. We're not, we're still not their level of company, but we're working to get there. So I think the relationship's been really good. Very, very positive. They just continue to kill it, and we're glad to be a part of it.
So how did the Netflix come up? I mean, I know they were approached by Netflix without getting their side. How does that relationship begin with you, where it's like, okay, but we're gonna have our contractor on, Tyler, right? We're gonna bring him on, and did you have reservations? How did that introduction begin, and how did that take place?
So, I mean, initially, I was like, no reservations. Let's do this. Like, I was excited. I remember the day Shea called me. I was on the house in Park City, and it was cold, and it was later at night. And she's like, hey, I could tell she had something important to say. And it's like, hey, we got this Netflix thing. Like, it's going to happen. Do you want to fly out to LA to meet them? And it's like, yeah. Okay, let's do it. So we went to Netflix headquarters, and it was like total, just kind of weird, crazy. I didn't think that would be happening. And anyhow, it was a long journey. These shows take forever to film and edit. I should have had some reservations.
So they actually flew you
because
out there though to Netflix headquarters. You interview, kind of speak about the
mhm.
scheme or template for the show.
Yeah, so they had a pitch. So they have like I'm entering the world of like agents and just like people are way more important than me, and I'm just showing up, just contractor in a t-shirt, and I don't even know why I'm there to be honest. But um, they we went into a meeting and we kind of pitched a couple, or there was a couple different ideas pitched for the show, and they signed off on it. Ultimately, I had more. We're filming season 3 right now. I had more reservations for this season because my goal with McGee's, with Stu McGee's, to be their guy and not let them down and do the best I could. The reason I had reservations this season, I was just really nervous that with the current turmoil in the market, labor, you can imagine it's hard to get labor and materials for these multi-million-dollar projects, let alone a $50,000 kitchen remodel.
Right. And that's part
So,
of the issue of the show is that, it's one thing to say, okay, Tyler's bread and butter, your wheelhouse is to do this custom home, but that could be a 2-year build that doesn't work for the context of the show. And so they're going to say, Tyler, come out of your scope, come out of your comfort zone, do this basement, do this kitchen. And you're not, I don't want to say not set up, but it's just not your forte. I mean, and not set up. And it's same for
it's
me,
not my
like
fastball.
it's not your fastball. And the thing is, like your trade base, with as busy as they are, your trade partners and your supply chain, like it's hard for them to even mobilize to come and say, hey, let me pull a guy off this crew to come do this job, because I can't throw 30 guys in, I can throw one, and that's a little bit more difficult.
Right. I mean, you got it exactly. So, I mean, I feel like such a baby even having any complaints about being on a Netflix show.
No,
You know what I
no,
mean?
but
It's so
it's
awesome.
reality. I mean, the thing is, it's tight timelines, and right now, what's the
Yeah.
hardest thing? Having a tight timeline where you can't get product, you
Yeah.
can't get labor.
And like, I was thinking about this today. I was talking with one of my colleagues, just all the things I feel like I'm complaining about right now are things I dreamed for. Like, oh, we're so busy. Oh, poor Killowen. We got too much work. Or like, my kids are paying off. For years, all I wanted was children. You know what I mean? So I'm so lucky and so fortunate. I just want to preface that if any Netflix people are listening, I'm very fortunate and thankful for the opportunity. But logistically, I did learn a lot about smaller projects and remodels, because it's not our forte. We learned a lot that first season, and it's great for the stuff we're doing now. We're doing like 4 or 5 little remodels right now on the show. And we learned a lot from just handling these smaller projects, right? And the timeline, and just, I never had cameras while I'm doing demo, right? I've never, and just working with those schedules, it's a TV show, right? Mm-hmm. So, and also, dealing with COVID and all that fun stuff. I mean, it's hard to quantify what it's done for our company, but it's all good, right? So I think we do get a lot of requests for basements or kitchens and little additions, and I feel so fortunate for that work, but we typically say no, right? It's just not something we can fit in. If I had a Killowen Junior company where we just did remodels and kitchens and stuff, I think we could kill it, but I don't have the bandwidth to set that up or the manpower, right?
Well, and it's a different business strategy too. I mean, think about it. With a remodel, as you know, you need, right now you have in-house carpentry, right? You need an in-house plumber, you need an in-house electrician, in-house framer that can go and do this and put this together, because by you trying to GC a remodel, the cost, the economies of scale, the markup, I mean, it doesn't make sense for the clients either. And that's where it's not like you're turning it down because you're better than that. At the end of the day, the cost structure, the way that the project's managed, you have markup on so many levels that it doesn't work unless you're going after a big scale project.
Right. And I think, one thing I've seen, like I probably have 4 or 5 potential new client meetings a week, and I had 2 today. That's where I came from just before I got on with you. And I think some real value is to some people. Not everyone's watched the show. That's fine. But some people, I think, have feel like we've already been introduced, and that they have some feeling, and I feel like it's an advantage going into those meetings. I feel like they know a little bit about us already. At the very least, Shea trusts us to do some work, and she's a big deal. So I think that's been a huge benefit. So I wish we could do more on the show, because there's a handful we're not doing on this season 3, so you might see less of us. But at the same time, I didn't want to commit to too much and actually disappoint them, because we couldn't be there. So I think the ones we're doing now we can handle well. But it'll be fun. I mean, we're doing demo in 2 more days on another one, and those are fun, and my team enjoys it. It's cool. Cameras are there. And,
yeah. What's it like? I mean, what's it like with cameras there on site? Netflix producers. I mean, are there nerves? Is there, I don't want to say scripted. I don't want you to give away, the context of the show, because I'm sure there's confidentiality agreements. But, what is it like for you being with the camera there, and how do you portray your company, the project, interaction with Shea in a realistic, manner?
At first it was a little weird, but honestly, I think our relationship with Shea it just feels. I like it when we do. They call them build beats, when we're meeting on camera to go over a wood beam or a layout of cabinetry or something like that. That just feels super natural, because that's what we do every day, right? Some of when you think about the camera, it gets weird. But that, I don't know, that kind of went away. But what they told us at first is 95% of what you film won't make the cut. And that's right. Absolutely true. So there's a lot of things I'm glad didn't make the cut. There's a couple on this season I hope don't make it. But anyhow, I guess my initial, if I had reservations, I was really looking forward to the opportunity. But my biggest reservations is just probably coming from my insecurities. I just didn't want to look stupid. I didn't, because how the world is and how the internet is. If maybe I say something wrong about how to do a flashing detail on a window or something, then it's on record forever that I'm the dummy that doesn't know how to build things. Maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but I have, if there's levels of fame, here's my old man. This is a normal person, right? I might be right here with fame, and then Shay's clear up here. But even I, with that little amount of fame, get direct messages that are super personal and mean about how I didn't do something right, or if I can't believe you guys weren't wearing masks. And I'm well, actually,
can't believe you didn't have gloves on.
The pandemic hadn't happened yet, so it didn't exist. So, but again, that sounds like another thing I'm complaining about for an awesome experience. But there are those people that are online to hurt feelings and whatnot, but there's a lot of support. I was really impressed by the international support. If we were an international builder going to build in South America and Europe, we'd be killing it even more so. But Killowen, the name Killowen is actually, it's from a little village in Ireland where my grandfather's from. So when he was 19, he came over from Ireland. And he didn't talk much about it because we all think he kind of got in trouble. But I had a lot of people from Ireland reach out after the show, because it's an international show. Not all Netflix shows get an international release. Mm-hmm. And lots of people from Ireland reached out about, hey, Killowen, I'm from Killowen. And I showed my dad those messages, and he teared up. That's where I get it from. My old man. We're a bunch of babies. But it's cool to make that connection. That's so cool. I mean, growing up, I never would have thought the world would become as small as it is, and just, it's so cool having people, again, Instagram, people see the finished product and they think everything's just so perfect. We have people who want to intern from Africa, and I'm like, well, I'd love you to come. I just hope you're not disappointed when you get here, because it's a lot of work and it's not perfect. But all in all, it's been a really positive experience. So I'm really thankful, and I'm just fortunate that it worked out. That I don't know, right time, right place with the McGee's, that I was be able to be a part of it.
So how, I was going to ask you where the name came from. So I mean, it's just a cool background to understand, the genealogy history behind it, right? Of
Mhm.
that name. What have you learned? I mean, from being on the show with the timelines, the interaction with Shay and everybody. I mean, what are some of the benefits outside of the press, outside of social media, right? We understand that, but I just mean from an organizational standpoint, how has that helped you look and really
So
focus on the business?
I think we're doing a lot better this season than we did the first one. I mean, it's 2 seasons, but it got split because of COVID. So basically, it was one long season. But I think it trained us to be more organized and plan ahead, it's just super valuable in today's climate, right? I have a client that we're starting a beautiful house that's not going to be ready for 2 years, and they're really worried about ordering the appliances. And I'm like, we don't need to order quite yet, but we're on. Don't worry, we're ordering stuff early. So with the Netflix show, there's a lot of bosses involved, right? So there's multiple entities. There's me and Sue McGee and my subs, and then there's production and Netflix, and they have trade out partners for some of the materials on the show, big companies like Kohler and stuff like that. And I've never had so many people you've had to copy on an email, right? There's like a dozen people on each email, and you can't leave anyone out because everyone is integral to getting something ordered from like Pella Windows or something like that, where everyone needs to be on the same page, because not only does everything need to be ordered properly, we have to get very clear approvals for costs, right? Because I'm not paying for this, McGee's aren't. It's a collaboration of whatever. Somebody's paying for it. There's a lot of funds from all over the place. But we've had to be even a little more dialed in on our communication. Not that we're not big on communication now, but it's more people involved.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, there's just so much working behind the scenes, so many personalities, so many people and as you take that understanding, hey, I'm dealing with these 12 executives, 12 people in the group. How much more prepared will you be now on a one-to-one basis with your client, or on a 4-to-1 where it's you, architect, designer, client, right? There's 4 of you, and how much more precise can you be? So, what looking back, where you are today, Tyler, with the company, with the success you've had, kind of where you're going, what do you feel is the best advice you've been given?
Well, gosh, that's a great question.
Or as you think about that, right? Because I'm throwing this on you. I mean, think about the best advice you've been given. But if the table is turned and there's a new company starting, or here's Tyler 2.0 starting your company, what advice would you give yourself starting your brand now?
So I have a lot of things coming to my mind that all sound like bumper sticker material, but I believe them. Like I personally have a problem with courage, being brave. Like I hate giving bad news, and I don't like conflict, and those are two things you have to deal with almost constantly in construction. um, I think it goes back to, that courage thing, be brave, has to do a lot with procrastination as well. I think a lot of people procrastinate because they're afraid. Like, I, I was talking with one of my friends today. It is so much procrastination is such a bad thing, and I preach just getting stuff done. That's why I'm always with checklists, getting stuff done. It is so much. The fear of something is often way worse than the actual thing, right? So, like if I have to give bad news on a budget, or something's way more expensive than we thought it would be, and maybe justifiably so, maybe I had bad information, or maybe it's just bad news, putting it off is always worse, right? Okay, I'm not talking about putting it off maybe a Friday afternoon, turn that into a Monday call, don't always have to ruin someone's weekend. But I would say the time is now. Again, sounding like bumper sticker material. Like, the time is now. It usually always is. Like, just do it now. That's where I think maybe some of my team might be frustrated with me at sometimes, where it seems like I might be a little hard on them because I insist on very, very prompt communication, especially to the people paying our bills. If you go 24 hours without answering a text or an email, I am upset. That is to our homeowner. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have the answer. That means you just need to tell them you're working on it, right? Mm-hmm. Because, again, our clientele, well, and regardless of how successful you are or how much money you have, but we're building multi-million-dollar homes. Our clientele are pretty much ballers, right? They're doing well. They're running companies. They're successful. They need to be a priority. And I think where construction really goes sideways, the relationships at least, is communication, right? If someone feels heard and you're telling them, even if there's a problem, if you acknowledge that it's there and that you're working on it, and you keep telling them that, this is where we are, constant updates, communication, I think, is huge. And I think that's somewhere where we excel in our company, and it doesn't come naturally to everyone, right? I communicate very promptly because I have so much anxiety. I'm not saying that's a positive, but I use it to my benefit, to the fact that if something's on my list and it's not done, it bothers me. So I get a lot done. I'm not saying that's incredibly healthy, and I need some boundaries at some point, but getting stuff done quickly and promptly and making people feel like a priority, because they are a priority, but at least acknowledging that with verbal and written communication is huge.
Yeah, I love that. That's powerful advice, because one of the issues we deal with, and I look back at the biggest mistakes I've had, all come from unclear expectations, right? And being responsive is super important, especially those clients, that they feel heard, they feel addressed. Even if you don't have the answer, say, "Hey, Tyler, thanks for reaching out. Let me find out. Let me get back to you," right? So at least they know that it's not on deaf ears, right? That you care. I mean, that's super valuable. And setting clear expectations, I look back, and if I could go back, and part of that comes with experience. Part of it comes as you work, and you learn, the mistakes we made, or the mishaps or oversights, right? As we apply those, and we have, as you mentioned, we have the exit interviews with the clients, so we get that feedback, or we have it with our employees and we get the feedback why they've left, or what the turnover, or year-end reviews, whatever. I mean, we can get that feedback from a lot of different people, and then it's important that we apply that. So, I mean, it's just powerful wisdom. I mean, I love your story, Tyler. The emotion behind it, just how passionate you are about the trade, how passionate you are about your company, about your people, about the building process, the teamwork, and it shows. And you've done it's very impressive what you built. It's impressive to see how you hold yourself, and even on camera, right on Netflix. And I think it's awesome. I think it's amazing what you've done, and I love living vicariously through you. So, I mean, based on everything we've talked about, what do you have that's upcoming and exciting?
So this upcoming year, gosh, we have some beautiful homes coming through. So we all have our personal taste, right? And all of our homes, somebody loves them. But the ones coming up this year, I'm super excited about, because they're homes that are would be my dream home, right? So I feel like we're fortunate with the amount of work that's available. We can kind of pick and choose the ones we want, right? And I tell my people, don't worry, we're only taking the good ones, but there's a lot of good ones. So I'm excited for our potential growth for next year. We have a lot under contract, but that hasn't started yet. I'm talking about getting emotional. Our office, I'm in my home office right now. Those on video can see
that beautiful artwork.
It's my kids' art. But we have our cabinet shop, and we have an office there, but most of our people are working out of their trucks on job sites, which is normal for construction. But we're going to have a headquarters now. We have a building on Heber Main Street in Utah, and I was just there today. We're framing it right now. In the next few months, we're going to have something that's ours, I mean, like, we're not selling anything out of it, but it's like brick and mortar, right?
Right.
It feels like a huge milestone for us. Comes with overhead, right? But I'm excited for just my team to have a place to call home. More so than just the job sites. You know what I mean? So that's really cool. Along with our awesome projects, like I said, we're doing the show. And we have I'm just really excited about the trajectory of our company. The market is crazy. It's very busy. We have a lot of work. Maybe in 2 years, I'm begging to do basements, but I hope I'm with the same team, right?
Yeah.
I hope I have all my same guys. Actually, I'm really excited for the guys we haven't even, the people, men or women, we haven't hired yet. I'm excited for them to come on and be a part of what we're building, because I think it's very, very cool, very, very promising. I don't have all the answers, so that's why I'm always excited to bring in new talent, right? Every hire I've made has taught me how to run my company better. And oftentimes, if we fail, or if we're not doing something right, it's usually my fault. Like, it's something that I've either trained or something I've let happen. So I'm excited for the people we have in place now and the growth for the next, several years, actually. But next year's an exciting year. A lot of cool projects, a lot of cool ones wrapping up. We're just really fortunate. Got another baby coming. I got my wife's birthday coming up. I'm just pumped. Things are going well. So
That's good. Well, I'm super excited.
Guy.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know what? Luck is also, luck's earned, right? And people that work hard and are good people and put a lot of good karma out there, they create their own luck per se. And I mean, that's always been my view. But Tyler, you've been amazing. I can't thank you enough. I know you spend a lot of time. I know you're super busy. You probably have Netflix calling, so that's probably got to get you off here. But, for those listening, where can our listeners find you?
On Instagram, Killowen Construction. I'm working on kind of ramping up our Facebook and our website and all this stuff, but most of our work is on Instagram. And then, if you're in the Park City, Utah area within about 60 miles, we'd love to build a house for you.
Great pitch there. I love that. And next time I get up to Park City, I'll definitely hit you up. We'll have to go for a home tour. But Tyler, I really appreciate making time. Thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And honestly, I am honored. I look up to you quite a bit. I tell people about my famous Arizona friend all the time. So,
well, there you go. We got two of us name dropping each other. So thank you all for tuning into the podcast today. And just as a recap, if you check the show notes, they're just going to have all the links for the topics that we discuss. And also one of our favorite features now is the chapters that go through the conversation. So if there's certain topics you want to revisit or listen to, they're outlined by the time that we discuss those. And again, we can't thank you enough for all of your support. Please make sure and download our podcast, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you download your podcast.